What if I told you some of the sweetest sitcoms from the 1960s quietly aired moments that would never survive a modern broadcast? Shows we were told were harmless, safe, family-friendly, but hidden inside the laugh tracks were scenes that feel off, jokes that land wrong, ideas that make you pause. Halfway through this list, the tone shifts from awkward to unsettling, and by the end, you may never hear canned laughter the same way again. This show already sounds like a joke before you even watch it, and that is part of the problem. My Mother the Car is remembered as strange, silly, and misguided, but underneath the odd premise is something genuinely uncomfortable. The entire series is built on a man whose mother has passed away and now exists as a talking automobile, and the show treats this as pure comedy. The mother nags, gives advice, complains, embarrasses her son in public. The laugh track fires constantly to remind you this is funny, light, absurd. But pause for a second and think about what the story is actually doing. A man has lost his parent. Instead of processing loss, the show traps her voice in an object and turns her presence into a source of humiliation. His private grief becomes a public gag. Every conversation is overheard. Every emotional moment is undercut by honking jokes and reactions from strangers. In the 1960s, this passed as novelty. Talking objects were popular. Absurd premises drew attention. The emotional layer was never examined because television was not interested in sitting with discomfort. Watching the footage now feels strange in a different way. And the humor depends on never allowing the character to move forward. He cannot heal. He cannot set boundaries. His past literally follows him everywhere, loudly. Modern sitcoms treat loss with care, even when humor is involved. They allow space. They allow growth. My Mother the Car does the opposite. It freezes grief into a punchline and repeats it every week. What makes this disturbing is not the fantasy. It is the lack of reflection. No one ever asks if this is healthy. No one suggests letting go. The show rewards emotional stagnation with applause. Clips online draw reactions ranging from disbelief to quiet sadness. Viewers laugh at the concept, then feel uneasy once they sit with it. The laughter starts to feel nervous. This is why the show vanished so quickly, not just because it was odd, but because it accidentally revealed how lightly television once treated emotional weight. That premise would never survive today without a complete rewrite, because grief is no longer something audiences want, played for easy laughs. And once you realize that, the joke stops working entirely. Green Acres sells itself as innocent absurdity. A city couple moves to the countryside. Nothing works the way it should. Logic collapses. Chaos reigns. The laugh track tells you to relax. But here's the unsettling part. Almost every episode depends on one person being told, over and over, that what they are seeing is wrong. Oliver Douglas tries to live by basic rules, cause and effect, schedules, straight answers, and every single character around him calmly insists that reality works differently here. Not in a whimsical way, in a way that makes him question his own sanity. Doors lead nowhere. Conversations loop without answers. Problems are denied while happening in real time. When Oliver reacts, he is framed as unreasonable, loud, difficult. The joke is not the situation. The joke is his refusal to accept nonsense. In the 1960s, this was framed as clever satire, city order versus rural chaos. But watching the footage now, the pattern feels different. Oliver is never allowed to be right. Even when he is correct, the show treats him as the problem. What makes this disturbing is the consistency. No one ever validates his experience. No one says, yes, this is strange. The entire community calmly insists that confusion is normal and resistance is the flaw. The laugh track seals it. Every time Oliver pushes back, the laughter tells the audience he deserves it. Not because he is cruel, not because he is wrong, but because he wants clarity. Modern comedies handle absurd worlds differently. They give characters anchors. Someone who agrees, someone who explains the rules. Green Acres refuses to do that. Isolation is the engine. Clips of the show now spark unexpected reactions. Some viewers laugh harder than ever. Others feel tense without knowing why. The humor depends on watching someone slowly lose footing while everyone else smiles. This is not about attacking surreal comedy. It is about recognizing how often confusion is used as punishment. The show teaches that wanting logic makes you the outsider. That idea would not land the same way today. Writers would soften it, balance it, offer relief. Green Acres never does. It doubles down. And that is why this moment belongs on this list. Because when laughter trains you to accept nonsense without question, the joke stops being harmless. Get Smart is fast, loud, and built on exaggeration. That's the appeal. A secret agent who fails upward. Plans collapse. gadgets malfunction, and somehow everything works out anyway. But rewatching certain moments now feels strange in a way the show never intended. Maxwell Smart repeatedly ignores warnings, misreads situations, pushes forward without listening to anyone around him. Other characters clearly see problems coming. They try to slow him down. They explain. He brushes them off every time. The laugh track rewards this behavior. Confidence beats caution. Loud beats careful. Authority beats awareness. Max is framed as heroic, not because he is competent, but because he never doubts himself. In the 1960s, this was harmless parody. Spy stories were everywhere. The show flipped them into comedy by exaggerating flaws. Audiences laughed because nothing felt real or lasting. But watching the footage now, the pattern stands out. Recklessness is never questioned. Mistakes never stick. And the people affected by his decisions are rarely acknowledged. What makes this disturbing is not one gag. It is the message repeated quietly across episodes. That confidence alone is enough, that listening is optional, that consequences can always be laughed away. Modern comedy handles this type of character differently. The joke turns inward. The story acknowledges harm. Growth is allowed. Get Smart resets everything and keeps going. Clips online now spark mixed reactions. Some viewers still love the chaos. Others notice the imbalance. Max is always right because the show says so, not because his choices make sense. The laugh track does heavy lifting here. It tells you when to clap, when to forgive, when to move on. Without it, the scenes feel sharper, faster, less comfortable. This is not about condemning satire. It is about recognizing how easily satire can drift into endorsement, especially when the hero never learns. That is why this entry belongs on this list, because what once felt like harmless exaggeration now reads like a celebration of unchecked authority. And that idea would not land the same way in a modern writer's room without serious reworking. I Dream of Jeannie is bright, playful, full of winks and sparkles. On the surface, but it looks like harmless fantasy fun. But one rule at the center of the show makes modern viewers shift in their seats. The premise is simple. Whoever opens the bottle becomes Jeannie's master. The show treats this as cute, convenient, a magical shortcut comedy. But think about that word: master, ownership, control. The joke never questions the rule, it celebrates it. Jeannie's devotion is portrayed as sweet and funny. Her lack of choice is never framed as a problem. The laugh track pushes you forward every time you might hesitate. In the 1960s, this dynamic passed easily. Fantasy made it feel unreal. The tone softened the edges. Audiences were meant to see it as romantic loyalty, mixed with slapstick chaos. Watching the footage now is different. The imbalance is impossible to ignore. The power never shifts. The rules never change. And the show never asks whether Jeannie wants any of it. What makes this moment disturbing is how long it lasts. It is not a one-episode gag. It is the engine of the entire series. Every joke builds on it. Every plot depends on it. Modern shows that revisit magical helpers bend over backward to add choice and agency. They explain. They justify. They soften. This show does none of that. It smiles and keeps going. Clips online spark heated debate. Some viewers laugh it off. Others feel uneasy and cannot explain why at first. Then it clicks. The fantasy removes responsibility from the characters and from the audience. This is not about intentions. It is about impact. The bottle rule teaches that control can be charming if it comes with a laugh track and a pretty set. But that is why this moment would never survive untouched today. Not because it is loud, but because it is baked in. And baked-in ideas are the hardest to defend when times change. The Munsters pretended to be a joke about monsters living in suburbia, but the real punchline was never the costumes. It was conformity. Episode after episode revolves around one idea: the Munster family is perfectly happy as they are. The problem is the outside world. Neighbors stare, schools panic, authority figures whisper. Everyone assumes something is wrong because the family looks different. On the surface, this feels progressive. The show flips expectations. The so-called monsters are kind, polite, loving. Meanwhile, the so-called normal people act rude, fearful, and judgmental. But here is where it turns uncomfortable. And the humor constantly reinforces the idea that fitting in matters, even if the family pretends it does not. Storylines often push the Munsters to change themselves to avoid attention, to hide, to tone things down, to pass as acceptable. The laugh track treats this pressure as silly inconvenience. But modern viewers recognize the pattern instantly. The burden is always on the different family to adjust, never on the world around them. In the 1960s, this was not framed as a problem. It was framed as cute tension. But watching the footage now, The repetition stands out. Difference is tolerated only when it stays quiet. What makes this disturbing is how often fear drives the plot. Teachers assume the worst. Neighbors jump to conclusions. Institutions react before understanding. And the show rarely challenges that behavior directly, but it laughs and moves on. The Munsters wanted to say love matters more than appearances. And sometimes it succeeds, but it also teaches that peace comes from minimizing yourself. Modern sitcoms handle this theme differently. They celebrate visibility. They challenge systems. They flip the pressure back onto society. The Munsters stops halfway. It comforts instead of confronting. Clips of these moments now spark mixed reactions. Some viewers see warmth. Others see a familiar lesson they have lived. Smile. Blend in. Do not make waves. That is why this entry belongs here, because the show looked radical on the surface, while quietly reinforcing a rule that still lingers today. Difference is fine, as long as it does not make anyone uncomfortable. And that idea would not slide past a modern writer's room without a serious rewrite. F-Troop was loud, fast, broad. It never aimed for subtlety, and that was the problem. From the start, the show built humor around exaggerated portrayals of native characters. Names, speech patterns, reactions, even episode titles leaned into jokes that reduced an entire group to a costume and a catchphrase. The studio thought it was harmless. After all, everyone was exaggerated. Soldiers, officers, authority. But there is a difference between poking fun at power and flattening people who already had no voice in the room. The laughter never stops. The jokes stack on top of each other. And the show never pauses to show balance or humanity. These characters exist only to be laughed at, misunderstood, or corrected by others. At the time, this passed easily. Television rarely challenged these portrayals, but most viewers had never met anyone like the characters they were watching, so the version on screen became the version in their heads. Watching the footage now is jarring. The accents feel forced. The dialogue feels heavy-handed. The jokes are built on misunderstanding, but the misunderstanding always points in one direction. What makes this disturbing is how confident it is. There is no sense of uncertainty, no hesitation. The show believed it was doing nothing wrong, and that belief is preserved forever in the footage. Modern platforms handle F-Troop carefully. Some episodes are skipped. Others are preceded by disclaimers. Clips online spark arguments about history versus harm. This is not about judging the past with modern rules. It is about recognizing patterns. Television teaches people how to see the world. F-Troop taught a lesson that would never pass a writer's room today. That is why this moment matters. Not because it shocks, but because it shows how easily entertainment can become instruction when no one stops to ask who the joke is for. Hogan's Heroes is one of those shows people defend before you even finish the sentence. Clever writing, sharp timing, beloved cast, and yes, all of that is true. But the setting is doing something heavy, whether the show admits it or not. The entire series takes place inside a prison camp run by enemy officers. The show treats it like a playground. Guards are foolish. Authority is harmless. Escape plans reset every week. Nothing truly bad ever happens. That tone is the disturbing part. The laughter smooths everything out. The stakes are fake. But the environment becomes a backdrop instead of a reality. Viewers are trained to relax inside a place that, in real life, carried deep fear and loss. In the 1960s, this approach felt bold. Some of the cast even believed humor was a way to remove power from cruelty. And for many viewers, that worked. The show was popular, hugely popular, but modern audiences struggle with it. Clips circulate online, and the reaction is always the same pause followed by confusion. Why is this funny? Why is this light? Why does nothing matter here? What makes this moment ban-worthy today is not a single joke or line. It is the decision to turn an entire setting into a safe space for laughs without context. No reminders, no weight, no acknowledgement beyond slapstick. Modern television handles similar material with extreme care. Balance is added, or gravity is respected. Even comedy knows when to slow down. Hogan's Heroes never slows down. It keeps smiling, and that smile feels frozen in time. This is not about blaming the show. It is about recognizing that some ideas only work in very specific moments in history. Remove them from that moment, and the tone collapses. The show wanted to say, humor wins. Today, many viewers hear something else. That suffering can be wallpaper if the jokes are good enough. And that is why this series would never launch the same way now. The Beverly Hillbillies built its success on contrast. Old ways meet new money, country habits in fancy rooms. That part still works, but some episodes lean hard into making entire groups feel like spectacles rather than people. One recurring setup involves visitors from outside the main cast arriving in Beverly Hills and being treated as strange, confusing, or threatening simply because they do not fit the environment. The humor comes from fear, from exaggeration, from turning difference into chaos. The show plays it loud. Granny prepares for conflict. Neighbors panic. Authority figures overreact. The laugh track pushes every moment forward before the viewer can question it. In the 1960s, this was familiar humor. Outsiders were funny. Misunderstandings were jokes. Nobody expected balance or depth. Watching the footage now, the jokes feel heavy-handed. The camera lingers on reactions meant to signal who belongs and who does not. The writing draws clear lines. Us here, them over there. But what makes this disturbing is how normalized it feels within the show's world. Nobody stops to say maybe this reaction is too much. Nobody challenges the fear. It is all treated as reasonable. Modern sitcoms flip this formula. They center the outsider. They challenge the panic. They make the fear itself the joke. The Beverly Hillbillies does the opposite. It invites the audience to laugh along with the fear. Streaming platforms are aware of this. Some episodes quietly disappear. Others resurface with warnings. Clips online spark debates between nostalgia and discomfort. This is not about ruining a classic. It is about recognizing how laughter was used to draw boundaries. Who gets to be normal? Who gets to be strange? That is why this moment lands here. Not because it shouts, but because it smiles while doing something exclusionary. And smiling harm often lasts the longest. The Addams family is often praised as ahead of its time, a loving family that looks strange but treats each other well. That reputation is earned, but there is a recurring beat that feels different when you watch it now. The family reacts to danger, pain, or chaos with calm delight. Someone falls, something explodes, a trap goes off, and the response is smiles, clapping, or polite curiosity. The laugh track jumps in fast, guiding you to see this as charming rather than unsettling. In the 1960s, this contrast was the joke. Normal families panic. The Addamses enjoy the moment. It flips expectations and creates comedy. Viewers laugh because the reactions are unexpected and playful. But modern audiences read this pattern differently. The emotional detachment is constant. There is no pause to check on anyone. No concern, no shift in tone. Everything is equally amusing, no matter how serious it looks. What makes this disturbing is the consistency. The show never breaks the rule. Calm replaces concern every time, and that repetition teaches a strange lesson, that empathy is optional if you are confident enough. The Addams family wanted to challenge norms. In many ways, it succeeded, but it also presented a world where reactions to harm are flattened into jokes. The laugh track rushes in before viewers can feel anything else. Clips online often get comments like, "This is funny but also weird." That reaction says a lot. The humor still works, but the emotional distance feels colder now. Modern sitcoms that use dark humor add balance. They let characters care. They show contrast between joking and checking in. The Addams family does not do that. It commits fully to detachment. This is not about saying the show is bad. It is about recognizing how tone shapes meaning. The Addamses are loving to each other, but oddly disconnected from everything else. That disconnect would raise questions today. Writers would add reflection. They would slow the moment down. They would let someone react like a human being. The Addams family never does. It smiles and moves on. And that is why this moment fits this list, because laughter without empathy can feel playful in one era and deeply strange in another. And once you notice it, the charm changes shape. The Flying Nun is remembered for one thing, a smiling lead character lifted into the air by the wind. It looks playful and harmless, almost surreal, but underneath that novelty is a message that feels far heavier now. Sister Bertrille is cheerful, capable, and clearly intelligent, yet nearly every episode places her in situations where her instincts clash with rigid authority. And every time the resolution is the same, obedience wins. The show treats this as light comedy. Authority figures scold gently. Rules are absolute. The laugh track smooths the edges. Questioning the system is framed as cute confusion, not valid concern. In the 1960s, this tone was comforting. Order mattered. Institutions were trusted. Television reinforced that trust by wrapping it in charm. Watching the footage now, the imbalance is obvious. Sister Bertrille is often right. Her solutions work. Her ideas help others. But the show still frames compliance as the ultimate virtue. What makes this disturbing is the repetition. The character learns nothing new. Growth is stalled. Curiosity is redirected back into obedience. Modern audiences notice this instantly. Clips online draw comments about wasted potential. Viewers see a character who could lead, innovate, and challenge, but is instead rewarded for staying in line. Modern sitcoms handle institutional settings differently. They allow friction. They explore doubt. They let characters change the rules. The Flying Nun does not. It keeps everything neatly contained. Smiles replace questions. Resolution replaces discussion. That does not make the show malicious, but it does make it revealing. This is why the series feels frozen in time. The charm still works. The flying still entertains. But the message underneath feels increasingly uncomfortable. And that is why this entry earns its place here. Because when obedience is treated as whimsy, the lesson sneaks in quietly, and quiet lessons often last the longest. Petticoat Junction presents itself as cheerful rural comfort, a small hotel, a loving family, a peaceful setting where nothing serious ever happens. But look closer, and a pattern starts to emerge that feels uncomfortable now. The adult women at the center of the show are repeatedly treated as if they cannot be trusted to make decisions. Their independence is framed as adorable confusion. Their confidence is turned into comedy fuel, and their mistakes are exaggerated while the men around them remain calm and corrective. The humor depends on imbalance. The women rush ahead emotionally, but the men slow things down logically. The laugh track always sides with control. In the 1960s, this dynamic felt normal. Television loved tidy roles. Women were warm. Men were steady. The show never questions this structure. It builds every episode around it. Watching the footage now, the tone lands differently. The women are not foolish. They are curious, ambitious, social. But the show treats those traits as problems to be managed. What makes this disturbing is how often growth is discouraged. When a character tries to change, explore, or step outside expectations, the story pushes her back into place. Stability matters more than choice. Modern sitcoms let female characters be wrong and still respected. Petticoat Junction does not. Wrongness is the joke. Correction is the reward. Clips online now spark surprise reactions. When viewers laugh, then pause, then laugh again more nervously. The charm is still there, but the framing feels dated in a way that goes beyond fashion. This is not about attacking the show. It is about noticing how laughter was used to keep boundaries firm. The show smiles while reinforcing limits. That approach would not survive untouched today. Writers would rebalance the power. They would let curiosity win sometimes. Petticoat Junction never does. And that quiet resistance to change is exactly why this moment belongs on the list. Gilligan's Island loved simple explanations. If something strange happened, the answer was magic, fear, or misunderstanding. That formula worked, until it didn't. Beyond the famous voodoo episode, the show repeatedly leaned on superstition as a joke engine. Characters panic over curses, charms, bad signs. The island becomes a place where fear of the unknown is played for laughs instead of curiosity. The humor relies on exaggeration, wide eyes, shouting, group panic. The audience is meant to laugh at how silly it all is. But the show never explains. It never grounds the moment. It just moves on. In the 1960s, this kind of humor was common. Mystery was something to mock, not understand. Television did not slow down to ask questions. Watching these scenes now, the pattern is obvious. Fear is the joke. The unknown is the problem. And the solution is laughter, not learning. What makes this disturbing is the repetition. One moment alone might pass, but stacked together they create a message. That unfamiliar beliefs are foolish, that curiosity is optional. Modern shows approach mystery differently. They frame it as discovery. They let characters ask questions. They replace panic with perspective. Gilligan's Island never does that. It treats fear as funny noise, and the laugh track makes sure you do not think too hard. Clips online reveal how fast modern viewers notice this shift. The tone feels thin. The jokes feel rushed. The laughter feels like it is trying to keep control. That is why this moment earns its place here. Not because it is shocking, but because it reveals how comedy once handled difference by brushing it aside. The island was meant to feel timeless. These scenes remind us it was very much of its time. This is where the warmth starts to feel like a mask. The Andy Griffith Show presents authority as gentle, friendly, and always correct. On Andy Knows Best, the system works. Order is natural, and questioning it is treated as childish or foolish. There are multiple moments where decisions are made for others without discussion. Problems are solved by quiet pressure, a look, a tone, a final word. The show frames this as wisdom. The laugh track nods along. At the time, this felt comforting. America trusted authority figures on television. They were calm, they were kind, they were right. The show reinforced that trust every week. Watching these scenes now feels different. The lack of pushback stands out. Characters rarely challenge decisions. When they do, they are gently steered back into line. The lesson is clear. Obedience equals harmony. What makes this disturbing is how invisible it is. There is no conflict, no raised voice, just soft control wrapped in charm. And that makes it powerful. Modern sitcoms thrive on questioning authority. They poke holes. They create friction. They let characters be wrong and learn. The Andy Griffith Show does not do that. It resolves everything neatly, often without discussion. Clips of these moments now spark mixed reactions. Some viewers find comfort in them. Others feel uneasy, not because anything dramatic happens, but because nothing does. The show assumes trust is automatic, that systems work because good people run them. That belief was common in the 1960s. It is far less common now. That is why this moment earns its place, not because it shocks, but because it teaches passivity through kindness, and kindness can be a very effective way to avoid questions. Bewitched often pretends its magic is harmless. On a twitch of the nose, a quick fix, no lasting effects. But there are episodes where magic is used to change how people think, feel, or act without their awareness. Characters forget things, change opinions, behave differently, and the show treats it as a convenience. A shortcut, a joke that resets by the next scene. In the 1960s, this played as fantasy logic. Magic meant rules did not matter. But when you watch the footage now, the imbalance is hard to ignore. People are altered without consent. Outcomes are decided without discussion. The magic user always knows best, and the person affected never gets a say. The laugh track rushes in to smooth it over. The scene moves fast. You are not meant to stop and ask whether this is fair, or right, or unsettling. Modern television treats mind-changing plots carefully. There are rules, consequences. Emotional fallout. Bewitched skips all of that. What makes this disturbing is how often it happens. Not once, not as a lesson, but as a tool, a reliable way to avoid conflict. Clips of these scenes online often come with comments like, "I never noticed this before." That reaction says everything. The show wanted to show a strong woman navigating a normal life, and in many ways, it succeeded. But these moments undercut that message. Power is framed as acceptable as long as it is quiet and well-intentioned. That idea does not sit easily today, and it would never pass a modern script review without heavy revision, which is exactly why this moment sits at number 2. Because it looks gentle, and gentle control is often the hardest to spot. This is the moment that sits at the top because it looks the most harmless while doing the most damage. The episode is remembered as clever, even brave. A mix-up at the hospital raises the question of whether a baby was switched at birth. On paper, it sounds like classic sitcom tension. Parents panic, jokes fly, everything resets. But the entire emotional engine of the episode runs on one uncomfortable assumption. That appearance alone would define belonging. The show never says it outright. It does not need to. The dialogue circles the camera lingers. The pauses are deliberate. The audience is invited to laugh while silently completing the thought. In the 1960s, this was considered daring television. Writers praised themselves for addressing a serious topic with humor. But that praise only makes sense if you ignore what the humor actually relies on. The tension is not about love or connection. It is about difference, and difference is framed as a problem that must be resolved as quickly as possible. The laugh track works overtime here. It tries to keep the tone light. It nudges the viewer forward. Do not think too hard. This is just a joke, except the joke is built on an idea that modern audiences recognize immediately. That is why clips of this episode spread online with warning labels and shocked reactions. People are not offended. They are startled. They trusted this show. They expected safety. Instead, they find something quietly revealing. What makes this the #1 moment is not cruelty. It is confidence. The show believed it was being progressive. It believed humor made the idea acceptable. It did not anticipate a future audience that would hear the silence between the jokes. Modern sitcoms would never approach this setup without careful framing, without discussion, without clarity. The Dick Van Dyke Show walked straight through it with a smile and hoped the laughter would cover the rest, and for decades did, until now. So the next time someone tells you old sitcoms were simpler, safer, and sweeter, remember this list. The laughter was real, but so were the blind spots. These shows did not mean harm. They reflected their moment, and that is exactly why they matter now. If one scene surprised you, say which one. If you caught something we missed, drop it below. Because revisiting the past is not about erasing it. It is about finally seeing it clearly.